Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. So if you can't hear me at any point, please do say in the chat, but it looks like we're all going. My name is Darren Campbell. I'm a software architect here at Zebra Technologies, and I'm going to talk today about what's new in Mobility DNA over the next 45 minutes or so. But before I get started, I did want to first cover the various ways of developing for Zebra devices. So if you're not familiar at all with Zebra or our catalog of devices, then I'll just spend the first seven or 8 minutes just talking about how you go about getting started for our devices. And then I did give this presentation like about a couple of months ago, maybe a month and a half ago. So I've updated it. So I've added the new, what's even newer in Mobility DNA, if you will, and that's the blue text. And honestly, that'll probably take us until the end of the presentation. If we've got any time left at the end, in addition to Q&A, then I will go over some of the more interesting topics that we had last time. But without much more further ado, let's just talk about ways of developing for Zebra devices. So here at Zebra, for our Android enterprise devices, we have a number of developer toolkits. If you go to techdocs.zebra.com, then you'll see all sorts of different options listed for you there. And the main entry points for our developers are DataWedge, Android, EMDK, and Xamarin EMDK. So you've got 3 different options. In fact, there's another one. There's Enterprise Browser as well for hybrid developers. The recommended route, though, and I've put a screenshot of the EMDK, the recommended route, if you're going to do any kind of barcode capturing, which is about 95%, I'd say, of our use cases, then I would recommend using Zebra recommend using DataWedge for your barcode capture. So let me just explain very briefly what DataWedge is. And I know a lot on this call probably familiar already, but please do just bear with me. DataWedge is a service that runs on your device. In fact, where is it? There you go. I can point to it. I think that's the right direction. Runs on your device, runs on all of our Android devices. It's preloaded. There you go. It's got an application associated with it, and it is also a service that's running. It's constantly monitoring for the foreground application, and it has a profile mechanism. So the profile mechanism is how you go about configuring like the various scanner settings, and there's also other device settings you can have in there. And then the way it works is when your application, you see we've got an application now running on the device, when that comes to the foreground, DataWedge will set the profile correctly. So it will say, you've created a profile associated with your app. Your app's now in the foreground. I will apply that profile. So if you imagine this as a communication stack here, we've got the application at the top and the DataWedge service at the bottom, and we want to scan some barcodes. So what you do with our devices. So you have a hardware trigger on I think this is a TC51. This slide's a little bit dated now. So we press the hardware trigger, and when you do, out comes a barcode scanning beam. I apologize for the crudity of the animation here. When you do that, if you've configured the profile to send intents to your application, then you will, through the DataWedge intent plugin, receive an intent either through start activity, send broadcast, or start service. So you'll have a broadcast receiver, you'll be listening for on intent, you'll have a service receiver, I can't remember the expression, but yeah, you're receiving intents from the DataWedge service to your application whenever a barcode is scanned. And if I scan another barcode, I get another intent. We have like multi-barcode methodologies where you can scan multiple barcodes in the same intent, but that's kind of a bit more advanced. There's a big white gap. Let's just fill in that white gap with what we call the DataWedge API. So we have an intent-based API with which you are able to communicate between your application and the DataWedge service. And there's this bidirectional, well, there's 2 different directions. The API, you're able to send commands to the DataWedge service. So you can, for example, send a command to start scan. Now that will do exactly the same as when you press the hardware trigger on the device. So rather than press the trigger, you see the animation, the scan comes out because I sent that start scan command. And then I receive back through the intent plugin the barcode data, just as I did if I did that hardware trigger pull. I mean, that's just one command. There's literally like 30 of these different APIs that you can send to DataWedge. You can get responses back from DataWedge. And so some of the commands that you'll send, there's like a get version command. So you'll get a response back, which will be the version. I think the example here I've got is enumerate. If I want to enumerate the different scanners that DataWedge is recognizing, you've got, I mean, just as a standard, I've got a few devices here. Like this is a TC52. It has on it the internal imager. It has a camera. Yes, it does indeed have a camera on the back here, and it will also support connectivity to various Bluetooth scanners, so RS6000, DS3678, and all of those kind of families. Anyway, so that's what you'll get back in the array of scanners. So you call enumerate and you get back an array of scanners. And that, as a very high level, is how we recommend you integrate with DataWedge. There are samples which are available on the Zebra GitHub repository. I think that link might be old, but it will redirect to the latest link. We have a Zebra Devs GitHub repository. Just search for it on TechDocs or Google and you'll be able to find those. But yeah, there's a fair few samples we have. I just have a very quick demo. All this demo is doing is using the DataWedge APIs to configure DataWedge first of all, and then scan some barcodes. So I've got a create button that will use the DataWedge API to create a profile, that profile I said earlier on, and associate it with this application. If I now go back into DataWedge, you'll say it's created a DW Capture One profile. And this is a basic sample app that you can download from our repository. It has one associated activity. You can do some configuration. I think the configuration I do here, oh no, I don't do the configuration here. I'm just showing you that code 128 and code 39 here are enabled. So just bear that in mind. So when I go back to the UI, I'm able to disable those decoders through the setconfig API. And now when I go back to the decoders profile, you'll see that those decoders have been disabled. Code 128, code 39 symbologies that you can encode a barcode in. Typically, you would only enable those symbologies which you want your application to recognize. The application shows various other things. It shows the DataWedge version. It's getting the status back. I don't want to dwell on this. This was intended to be just a very quick overview. So I'll move on from here. But yeah, so I do see a question. Yeah, this example is up online. If you go to techdocs.zebra.com, go to DataWedge and then samples, you'll be able to find this along with a number of other samples in the GitHub repository. So on to the meat and potatoes of the presentation, which is what's new in Mobility DNA. And I said this last time, but I've redone the screenshot because there's been new things added in the past couple of months since I did this presentation last. And if at any point I'm not doing this presentation and you want to know what is new in Mobility DNA, then head on over to techdocs.zebra.com. In the top left-hand link, there's a Mobility DNA panel. Click on that and it will take you to this page which lists the latest Mobility DNA features. I know what I forgot to do. I didn't mention what Mobility DNA was, so let me do that quickly. Mobility DNA is the layer which Zebra add on top of Android to provide additional functionality to, like, you know, we enhance the device through Mobility DNA. So that might be an administrator feature. It might be a new developer API. It might be a new service that has like a cloud component associated with it. It started off as a marketing term, a sort of catch-all term for everything that we do above the device, as they say. So yeah, Mobility DNA. And that's why I'm here to talk about what's new in those kind of above the device features. So the first thing I wanted to cover was something which has been newly released in MX version 10.3. And I should just briefly cover that if you are, so the way that you update your MX version is to update the operating system of the device, the BSP. So that might be through a Lifeguard update. We offer monthly security updates, which often will have features in them as well. So you can take up new features such as this that I'm about to discuss in MX 10.3. The MX number, when it's new, it does kind of tie in with the version of Android, but we do offer backwards support. Like MX 10.3 will, I believe, make its way to Oreo devices, for example. So don't see 10.x for the MX version and think, oh no, it won't work on my Oreo device. Check the release notes of the monthly update that you're downloading, and it will tell you the MX version in there. But that was a bit of a sidetrack. The new feature I want to discuss here is the ability to prevent a Play Store application from updating automatically. And this has been a request from the field for quite some time now. The scenario here is you have your set of applications that are on the device, and you don't want them to update because you've tested against those versions. Like maybe your app has dependencies on another app, or maybe your hybrid application has dependencies on the particular version of WebView which is on the device, and you don't want that updating, because if it does, it might change how your page renders, for example. And this never used to be a problem back in the old days when most of our devices were AOSP. Very few enterprises were using GMS. You sort of deployed applications through sideloading or StageNow or App Gallery as it was at the time. Things have changed. A lot more enterprises are using GMS and are using the Play Store to distribute their applications. We've got Google pushing heavily towards the managed Play Store and device owner mode. I mean, we're getting a little bit off topic again, but I'm just saying the overall trend is for more and more enterprises to access applications from the Play Store. And along with that comes the desire to prevent those applications from updating. So that was a very long introduction, but let me just show you how this feature works. We have a number of ways that we can expose MX functionality. One is through StageNow. It's a desktop tool that you can download. It runs only on only on Windows, I think. And you can create profiles, and then you scan a barcode, and those profiles are associated with the device. You can also access MX through your EMM. There's some EMMs allow you to submit the XML directly, or other EMMs also support OEM config, so you can access MX that way. So there's multiple ways to do that. I'll be using StageNow here just because it was easiest, and honestly, often StageNow will receive the updates to MX first. So yeah, I could demonstrate this. So in order to prevent, I think this example is going to use Chrome. You can hear in this video demo, I have prevented I'm pointing at the screen, but you can't see where I'm pointing. I'm pointing at my screen, com.android.chrome, which of course is Chrome on the device. And what you'll see, in fact, let me just start the video from running because it takes a little while. The Play Store, this is a typical Play Store that you find on any GMS-capable Android device, and it starts to download the new updates. Maybe the Play Store knows there's been an update, their device is connected to Wi-Fi, it has power. These are the normal preconditions of the Play Store, aren't they? And so it goes ahead and starts downloading these applications. This is a closed source application from Google. We can't change this functionality, but we can prevent those applications from installing after they've been downloaded. And if the video would be so kind, thank you. You see that they downloaded, but they didn't actually install. So our device is now at a point where the version of Chrome is fixed and cannot update. I found something quite interesting. It would also prevent the WebView from updating when I disabled Chrome. And obviously, well, maybe not obvious, but I suspect that the reason for that is because the Android WebView uses the Chromium rendering engine. All of these videos are available on YouTube if they're not coming through very well on the conference system. I don't want to show it again. So that's disabling application updates to the Play Store. When I last said that this was a coming feature in my last presentation, I got a number of questions come through, one of which was, actually, excuse me, my throat's a little bit. One of which was, what if we try and run the update through MX? So we already have an MX feature that allows you to upgrade an application. What if I prevented updates and then I used the MX feature to upgrade the app? Well, the app will still upgrade if you use MX. But if you use any other technique, for example, clicking on an APK, sending an intent to update the APK, or in trying to update through ADB, someone emailed me the other day to inform me as well. None of those will work if you've got this setting, disable applications through the Play Store. So you can kind of guess how our team went about implementing that. There's something that they've done in the package installer layer, which just prevents the installation of those apps. So yeah, very interesting. It got quite a lot of feedback. I did a separate like article blog on the developer portal. So if you want to know more about this, check out developer.zebra.com, and under blogs, I think it is, I've got some information there about it. The other thing, I'm just keeping an eye where the camera's on the screen, so I'm not covering up anything important there. The other new feature in MX 10.3 is touch mode panel from the power key. Now, touch mode panel is a new feature which we've added. How do I explain this? We've added to MX to enable you to quickly switch between the types of panel that we have on the device. Obviously, you're not going to be switching the panel out manually. What we do, actually, we support gloved fingers, for example, or we support stylus entry on the device. And what you're doing underneath the covers is you're affecting the sensitivity of the display. So if I configure my device to have glove and finger mode, the device is going to be very, very sensitive, because it's expecting your finger and like a glove and a screen protector. So yes, it's sensitive to detect your capacitive finger. And we got feedback say, hey, it would be better if we were able to quickly switch between the two. Like, our workers are removing their gloves, and so we want to switch to finger only mode between glove and finger. So this new feature will enable a new option in, I think I have I can be posh here, can't I, and use a laser pointer. There's a new feature in the power menu, if you enable it, which will give you this new option, touch panel mode. And if you press on that button, then it will bring out this user interface, and then you can click between the various modes where you want to change the sensitivity. And just bear in mind, if you are one of our Android 11 beta users, this will not be available to you yet. I made that mistake. I tried it on Android 11, it didn't work. The team is still implementing this feature, but it definitely will work on any of our released software, Android 10 and anything that runs 10.3, MX 10.3. Other enhancements. So there were some enhancements which have been added to versions of MX, which I didn't feel worthy of an entire slide, because there's not really much to demonstrate, but they're well worth talking about. We have some new keys that have been added to the key mapping manager. We obviously bring out new devices all the time, and with those new devices, many of them have hardware keys. They might not all have full hardware keyboards, but some of them have special keys which are added just to that particular device. And I know this is a trend which is going to continue. I see stuff in development as well with innovative devices and new keys being added. Anyway, we've added new keys to the key mapping manager. That's a very long way of saying that sentence. USB manager, we got some feedback that, hey, at the moment you connect the device to USB, and it whatever the default behavior is, we don't want that default behavior. We want some different default behavior. We want it to connect as a tethering device, or I forget what PTP stands for off the top of my head, or charge only. There's a way to switch between those as an administrator, so you can configure the device to default to that particular USB connection mechanism. Wireless manager, and honestly, there's like hundreds of these MX features. If you go to techdocs.zebra.com, click on the MX icon, and it will give you all of these new MX features. So that's why we do this kind of presentation, to point out the more interesting ones. Wireless manager is the ability to control Bluetooth scanning on or off, Wi-Fi scanning on or off, and the location service on or off. And these, so if you've ever looked at the location settings of an Android device, it gets a little bit complicated, confusing, because like you have this ability to scan for nearby Bluetooth beacons and scan for nearby Wi-Fi services. And if you're Wi-Fi scanning, even when the Wi-Fi is off, you might be using battery, you might be sending data to Google that you don't want to be sent, because there may be location data in there. Maybe that's a concern of yours. The ability to control all of this is now in the wireless manager. And then fourthly, on this slide, the manage external storage permission, the ability to control that. And this has come about because there's been a change to Android, which everyone on this call will surely be aware of, which is called scope storage. And with scope storage introduced in 10, but mandated in 11, an application only had access to its own files and folders within its own sort of sandboxed external storage area. It gets more complicated than that, but One way that applications would like to circumvent scope storage is to request a permission which is known as all files access on the device. And in order to request that permission, you need to, oh no, there's two permissions. Okay, there's two very related and essentially the same permissions. In order for your application to have access to any file on the device, it needs this all files access. It needs to be granted the manage external storage permission. You can do that through Stage Now or through MX or through OEM. That's good. That new feature is in there. But be aware that this does not circumvent the associated Play Store policy around this permission. So Google have very stringent restrictions on which applications can use this permission. And if you submit an application to the Play Store or the managed Play Store, or indeed a private application distributed through the Play Store to a particular organization, you will be subject to this policy, and it actually requires a manual check by someone that works for the Play Store to approve your application to have this permission. So again, all of that is a very long way of saying this feature is there if you're maybe side-loading your apps, you're installing them through Stage Now, or through your own proprietary mechanism, or you're using like your EMM in a non-DO mode. It's again, some EMMs offer that feature. Just use this with caution, this fourth bullet point. And then finally, before I go into another topic, I did have the MX 10.3 enhancements. So they were 10.4, this is 10.3. I've already mentioned the ability to prevent applications from upgrading or downgrading. There is the new feature to clear device Bluetooth pairings. And the use case here is, I think this originally came from a hospital, but you can imagine it in other sort of verticals. At the start of the day, the person using the device is going to connect with many different Bluetooth peripherals, and it may well change which Bluetooth peripheral is being connected to. So you want the manager or the admin or someone to be able to clear those device settings out, to clear those pairings out, and enable the staff to repair with the particular printer or scanner that they want to. So there you go, there's the ability to do that. DHCP6. We have some options around there, as well as enhanced NFC logging. We actually have a whole enterprise NFC. It's not a driver. Let's call it a value add that we have in our devices to augment typical standard Android NFC. So if you actually go in onto one of our devices, and maybe that one's a little bit old, and you click on I won't do this live. You have like various additional NFC settings, but we've added more logging in if your device is running 10.3. And the touch mode panel, again, I've already covered in the slide at the beginning of this presentation. What I didn't get a chance to cover last time was the new features which have been added into Enterprise Browser 3.06. And I still don't know the Enterprise Browser numbering scheme, but this is the latest version. And sorry, excuse me. So Enterprise Browser, I think it was released in November last year. What are we in now? May? Yeah, it's a few months old now. But let's cover what the new features are, because we never did a DevTalk or anything about this. There's a new device API, enables you to hide the Android navigation bar. And I see some like confusion around what the navigation bar is. It's going to be all blurry, but the navigation bar is this thing here. It's the thing that contains the home, the recents, and the back button. So you have the ability to control whether or not that is seen through Enterprise Browser. There are existing APIs in EB for disable the home button, disable the recents button. I call them buttons. Nowadays they're soft buttons, but Enterprise Browser has actually been around since Gingerbread. Anyway, WebView API, so the ability to enable or disable pinch and zoom on that. There's a new database API. The story of databases in Enterprise Browser gets a little bit confusing, so let me just add some clarity here. So back in the day, Enterprise Browser, the original version actually sprang off from Row Mobile Suite as it was at the time, which had a synchronization framework in there to enable you to asynchronously synchronize data between the backend, which was hosted in Heroku, I think at the time, and your device. And in order to do that, you needed like a local database on the device to sort of cache this information in. So there was a database API. What's been added is not that database API. It is a new API, but that new API is providing oldish functionality. So as another slight tangent, there is a technology called Web SQL, which was added into the W3C. There was an RFC out for it, and you can Google for this, and it will say the implementation was added to most browsers, but it was your microphone appears to be noisy. I've just got a message come up on my screen. Yeah, because I was coughing into it. I apologize for that, anyone with headphones on. So there was an existing Web SQL API which people could make use of, and many did, but the actual API itself was deprecated from the web standards. It's still deprecated, but it does exist in many browsers still, and you can use the API, like it works in Chrome, it still works in enterprise browser, but we now have the database API, which is our like supported version of that Web SQL API. So yeah, sorry, long story short, there's a new API where you can store stuff in addition to the existing APIs like local storage where you have name value pairs. There have also been some licensing enhancements, the ability to register for a 1, 3, 5 year term for your license rather than a perpetual license. I'm not sure about the prices. The licensing of EB is still done through the standard Zebra licensing mechanism. So more details available in that link, or TikToks, Tech Talks there. There's a trial license. Yes, so I mean, licensing is never the most interesting thing to talk about. So that's all I'm going to talk about that. The other feature which the team have added, and this is one of those features where you have a development team and you say, development team, come up with some innovative ideas and make it into like a beta version and see if people are interested in it. And so they went away and they said, hey, wouldn't it be great if we could extend the previous concept of DOM injection and enable customers to inject predefined code snippets that will be executed when particular text boxes or fields or pages of our app receive focus. I should just say DOM injection is the ability of an administrator or someone other than the developer. I suppose the developer could do this as well. Let me explain this in a different way. The use case here is you have an application out in the field and it works. It's perfect. Everyone loves it and everyone depends on it. And under no circumstances are you ever allowed to modify this application because no one wants to change it. Even though it doesn't work properly and it needs additional features added to it, you're not allowed to touch the original application, which sounds not like you couldn't do that. But to the rescue comes DOM injection. So DOM injection, as the name suggests, is the ability to inject into the current page, into the document object model, JavaScript or CSS, and have that CSS modify the look and feel of the page or modify the functionality of the page. I did an example of this like ages ago where I had like a really old legacy Pocket Browser application and I injected some CSS into the page and made it look nice. Like it ran well on Android at the time. It's a few years ago now. Anyway, so EAC, the Enterprise Application Configurator, which is in beta, or alpha, will enable you to do that in a way that doesn't require writing any JavaScript or CSS code. So I did a video of this. It's a little bit complicated to set up. It took me a couple of tries, but essentially you have Enterprise Browser, and I didn't have a test page. I just added a few text fields in here to show you what they do. So for some reason the formatting was a bit wrong. Ignore that. You know, that's just, we have 4 text boxes on a page. You need to install the application configurator separately, and that will give you a URL that you need to navigate to from within your browser here. So it asks you a couple of questions to get started. Is it a single page app or not? That's just going to determine how it applies that DOM injection rule, whether it's page-based or field-based. And then once you have everything up and running, you see I have my a screen mirroring of the device in the left-hand side there. And I can, for example, enable the scanner in that first field. And when I navigate to the second field, this is rather small, I hope it's coming across on the video, I can enable voice input, which is a way for Enterprise Browser to detect voice. and then it would be handled within the device. In the third field, I might want it to say, well, literally speak to me. It might say hello. It might say, please scan barcode quantity, maybe. And then I might do some formatting in this fourth field here. I think I was running out of things to click on. I might have a combination. I will enable the imager as well as, do I do the printer? No, I just do some formatting. I say also enter an auto tab at the end of any of that scan data, which would be coming in as text. Now, I can also control the keyboard layout. So if I had multiple layouts from Enterprise Keyboard, I could switch between them using this configurator. For more information on Enterprise Keyboard, see my DevTalk I did on EKB. So what the output of all of this is a text file, and then you configure, well, Enterprise Browser is configured with a config XML file today. The team are working on managed configs, and you essentially point to that text file from your config, and then it will apply all of those scanning or whatever features you selected. So if that interests you, have a play with it. It's there. Feedback's appreciated. I haven't seen too much feedback come through, but obviously the more feedback we get, then the more we invest in this kind of innovation. So yeah, feedback appreciated. And so that completes the I don't want to say old, that's the newest of the new features that we've added to Mobility DNA. The most feedback I got last time I gave this presentation, though, was on smart profiles, which is a new feature added to Stage Now. So let me just take a few minutes to answer some of the questions that we got previously and to demonstrate that feature again. Okay, so I don't want to do Alt-Tab because I can't remember what I've got open here. So Stage Now. If you update your version of Stage Now to version, I think I've got 5.1 here. This might also be in 5.0, but just use 5.1. So what you do is you hit on this Browse for Lifeguard Updates button. And I found out to my peril that if you hit refresh, then it takes like a couple of minutes to update. So I will not be hitting refresh. I don't actually know why it's not giving me any option to hit it. Make sure if there's any internal Zebrans watching, you need to connect through either an external SSO account. So non-Zebras, if you have an account that you're using to access any of the Zebra functionality today, like the licensing system or our support download portal or even the zebra.com website, you can log in. If your account is enabled for Lifeguard, then you will be able to do this. If you're an internal Zebra, then please reach out to me. I can get you some credentials to demonstrate this. But the way it works, let's say I have a device. I think it was my TC52 I demonstrated this on before. So I know this is a GMS device. It's running Android 10, and then sort of it grays out these at the bottom here because there's no Android 10 variant for the 70X, for example. It's just getting security updates now rather than the new Android versions. But I'm running TC52. And so I've done all my selections. I hit show results, and this gives me a list of the most recent builds which are available for my TC52. So the way to understand this build number is you're looking at this U70. This is the update number. So if you were to go to the Zebra developer portal download, not the developer portal, sorry, the Zebra support portal download website, and then go to devices, mobile devices, click on TC52, go to GMS, do all of that, you would see that there was a version 70 available. So for some reason, they've skipped from version 28 to 44 to 70. And it supports all of these device models. These are the common Snapdragon SD660 processor devices that we've got. So they're all running the same build. But we see here there is the TC52. I can look directly at the release notes from this application. And incidentally, I mentioned earlier on about the MX version. So let me just show you where that is in the release notes. Here you go, like MX 10.3. So this particular Lifeguard update, 44, has MX 10.3. For some reason, I think this must have been just a security update 17. And then I can move that over there. Apologies for the slowness of my computer. And then what I do, once I've chosen my update, obviously there's other filters up here, I can add it to my Lifeguard updates. and then I can close out of this window, and my lifeguard updates will appear here. Yes, they will eventually. We are incidentally working on a number of improvements to Stage Now. I would be remiss of me if I didn't mention that. So now this is the presentation. When I was doing it last time, we were on lifeguard 26. Now we're on number 70. What you can do, you can hit this plus symbol, and that will create for you a staging profile. And it's with that staging profile, which will appear incidentally under lifeguard properties. It takes you through a little bit of a wizard, and then you end up with this. I've called it TC52 to latest. Of course, it's not the latest now. It was a month or so ago. And you can, what that will do, in fact, let me just go back to the previous page and emphasize this. It will download the required files in order for you to upgrade your device to the version which you've specified. So what I mean by that is, you see this little cloud icon here. This at the moment is like, I haven't downloaded anything, whereas this has downloaded something. If I were to click that, it would start downloading the full update package to get me to the baseline version, which is 10.16.10. And then it would also download the Delta package, which would get me to upgrade 44 here or upgrade 70 here. And then once I've downloaded all of those image files, I can create my profile, and then I end up with a barcode which I can scan on my device and just leave the device, and it does its updates in the background. It does need to be on the same subnet as Stage Now, so those files are served from Stage Now itself. There's no cloud server today. There are, sorry, I'm looking at the other window. I should be looking at this window. There are ways of doing this through EMMs. I don't want to like pick out any EMMs to show favoritism, but I know a number of EMMs already support our lifeguard update policy. Let me just show you how that works, and then I'll probably switch over to Q&A at that point, because I see the clock is running down. How do I minimize a window? There we go. I did learn that at school, and luckily I remembered. So yeah, I think the demonstration, so it supports Oreo and Higher. I think you saw that. So live demo, we just did that. And then this video demo is going to be me upgrading to lifeguard version 26. And I've cut out an awful lot of time from this video. Obviously, it takes some time, even though it's on the same subnet, it takes some time to download the full system package and the Delta package from Stage Now. But there's 3 steps here. That's the important thing I want to emphasize. Well, and the first step is downloading the files from Stage Now. It's downloading the full package. It downloads the Delta, and then it will say, I've completed staging. Now, don't do what I did the first time I tried this and let's reboot the device thinking it didn't work. It's doing something in the background. It's running the OS update service. And this is like the second stage of updating the device. So that will take some time. It does some Zebra magic. And after the Zebra magic, it's time for some Android magic. So then it performs the standard Android AB update, is it? Or Android update. And now it's rebooting. It installs the updates as part of this reboot step. And then when the device comes back, it will come back, I know, because I recorded this video, so I know how it ends. And then it is actually updated to version 26. So I just want to emphasize, or show or demonstrate that that actually worked. So if I go into About Phone, this is the way to do it, incidentally, to get your build number. You see that U number right down here. So it's U26. It has updated successfully. At the start of this video, that was a U0. Now, I think I've got like 10 minutes left, so I will go over. Is there any questions in the Q&A? So maybe I'm not too sure, BB or Stacey, if there's any additional Q&A, but I see a Q&A box for me where Stacey has put a message. Don't forget, you can also check out our developer portal for more info. So I see a question about. I have a problem with my connect. Okay, so I think that's been answered by the MDK. Any other questions, please do put them in the Q&A box now, and I will answer them live. If I don't see any questions come in, I'll move on to the next bit of content. Yes, Darren, so far we only have one question below. Okay, so I'll take this opportunity to have a drink and just give a couple of seconds for people to type in their questions. I'm sorry about the audio problem at the start of the presentation, incidentally. First time using this platform, and I'm trying to use this microphone. I don't know if it was me or other people joining, but anyway, we're here now. So I don't see any other questions coming through other than Dan's question. So thanks very much, Dan. I appreciate the praise. Always goes a long way to make me feel good. And okay, yeah, I don't see anything else coming through. But so let me just talk very briefly then. I think I've got 9 more minutes. I'll talk about Smart Leash. Oh no, I see a question. Is there a perpetual license available for EB? I think there still is. I don't think they stopped the perpetual licenses. Let me just try and find out live on the call, which is always the most annoying way to do it when you're. So the place to go, I should say, is if you go to techdocs.zebra.com. This is where I'm going, and then there's a licensing bit there. You can read all about licenses. So the perpetual licenses remain in effect. For more information, read about perpetual licenses. There you go. The answer to your question is yes. Thank you very much. And I didn't know that either, so I learned as well. Okay, so Smart Leash is a new feature added to Device Central. Device Central is a application service which currently I think it's preloaded. It might be post-loaded in the future, but you're able to use Device Central on Zebra devices to gain visibility on all of the Bluetooth peripherals that you have on your device. So obviously we're a printing company with Zebra, so you can pair with our Zebra Bluetooth printers. You could pair with our Zebra ring scanners or Zebra dedicated scanners as well on your Android device. How do you do that pairing? How do you see what devices you have? You use Device Central, and that's been there for some time. I actually wrote the original version, the beta version of that. I always like to mention that whenever this tool comes up. So if there's a bug, it was introduced later, honest. And so there's a new feature, though, that's been added to Smart Leash or Smart Lead, which is the ability to detect when a peripheral has gone out of range. So in this example, I have the RS6000, which is paired, and I think what I did, I went outside and I ran. Oh no, I think I did run actually because I didn't want the video to go on for too long. So then I had to edit the video to cut out all of my heavy breathing, which you didn't want to listen to. So let me just show you what that looks like on a device as you go out of range and then come back into range with the TC52 and the RS6000. The use case here is I have just left my ring scanner on a shelf somewhere because I had to take it off to do some loading or for whatever reason, and I didn't mean to forget it, and oops, I forgot it. Now I can get a notification about that. So at the moment, the device is in range, and I have a notification to tell me that I'm connected to the device. That's the standard Device Central stuff, just to give me additional visibility. And what I can do, this is me running out of range with the Android device, and the RS6000 was upstairs, and now it's become disconnected. So I'm receiving a notification through the actual Android notifications, as well as the device is vibrating, and I can hear it beeping at me. Unfortunately, you can't hear it beeping because I muted my speakers earlier on because of the problems that we were having with the audio. But yeah, anyway, so now we've come back in range and the Bluetooth scanner has reconnected. So everything's gone back to normal. Everything's happy. The device has stopped beeping and it's stopped vibrating as well. And you can configure whether it beeps or what noise it makes or what else it does in the settings here. So there's an enable Smart Lead, and I'm kind of in the way, but I don't know how to move my camera. You can change the haptic feedback. That's the vibrating, the enable audio. You can change this through. I'm not sure if you. I'm sure you can configure it remotely, but I can't quite remember how to do it. Please look on TechDocs, and there's a whole section on Device Central for TechDocs to explain the remote configuration of Device Central. And we've got a few minutes left, so let's end off then talking about the panic button. The panic button was added in MX 10.2. Well, they didn't like the name panic. I think that was originally the name, but then we didn't want to introduce panic into our user community, so we changed it to alert button. The idea here is something has gone wrong, you want to discreetly call for help, because again, I think this came from our healthcare vertical. Like maybe the nurses were in trouble, we had an out of control patient or something, or maybe I'm just using my imagination there, but I'm sure it was something like that was the original use case. But it's the ability to perform an action that you can initiate via an intent by a button on the device. So the example here, and I've already got this device set up. This is a TC57, so it has a SIM card in it, and it actually has this button on the back here, this discrete button, which was originally for triggers. If you had like a plastic trigger that goes on the bottom. Anyway, so what you do, if you want it to call a number when you press that, even when the screen is off, you can use MX to do three things. Firstly is you have to specify button as a wake up source. So this back button, you want it to wake up the device. So whichever condition the device is in, you want help. You want it to call that number. And then you have to choose which button is going to be used for the alert. So that's, in this instance, we're going to use the rear button. And then we specify the intent, which is sent when you hit that rear button. So it's a call intent, and it uses, this is the phone number that we want it to call. So I'm going to try a live demo. We'll see if this works. So I'm just going to press this back button. The screen is off, pressing and holding, and it's come up with, well, what it's doing in the background now. If I just switch up, hang on. Oh, no, live demo didn't work very well, did it? Okay, well, I mean, there you go. Right, so we are calling for help now. So, okay, well, I don't actually. Okay, started. Okay, the lady on the end of the call started talking to me. So let's hang up on that. But that is how you would set up a alert button in your presentation. Sorry, in your application. My mind was getting ahead of itself because I was thinking the presentation is now over. If you want to set up your own TC57 in that way, then there's a Stage Now barcode there you can scan. I see Stacey saying thank you for joining us today. So that is all from me. Please stay tuned. We've got a lot of great content coming up from all sorts of other speakers across different areas of the company. Thank you for listening. If you have been, I'm Darren Campbell, and I will leave you now. But thank you very much.